Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be back in Michigan. This, of course, is a place I was born and raised, and I'm delighted to have family here as well. I want to introduce my brother who's here. You all know him, but I don't get a chance to introduce him all the time. My brother my brother Scott, his wife Sherry, and their son Matt are here. Please say hi to them. And then another interesting individual. He was a foreign exchange student. So he's kind of my big brother. He was a foreign exchange student in our home for a year in Scott's senior year in high school. His name is Tito Cortelli. He comes from Italy. I haven't seen him in a long time. He's changed a little bit. He has a little less hair. My fondest memory of Tito was seeing him run the entire length of the field as a fullback in soccer, running the full length of the field and scoring a goal time and again. Extraordinary soccer player from Italy, and my big brother, Tito Cortello. Will you stand up, Tito, and say hi to folks? So thank you. I appreciate this chance to speak to a number of students here at the Lansing Community College. East Lansing, as you may have known, was my home and my parents' home for 6 years of the 1960s. And though I was at school away for most of that time, Lansing and East Lansing still hold great memories for me. It's as much as I remember it. Michigan State is, of course, a very big presence in the community, and the Capitol building continues to dominate the downtown skyline. But a good deal has changed, as you know. Perhaps most noticeably was the demise of Oldsmobile. It's a fine car, and was a source of pride for the city. And it was also the source of a lot of good-paying jobs. So it's sorry to see it go. Now, these last few years have been hard on the people of Lansing, and frankly, they've been hard on the people of America. And in the Obama economy, some of the hardest hit have been those in the middle class of America, many of whom have fallen from the middle class into poverty. Moms and dads who used to sit down with their kids at dinner now are working different hours, different shifts. And so the kids pretty much have to eat on their own, catch as catch can. Retirees who had saved and planned for retirement can't sell their home, and they can't begin to live off the puny interest that comes from CDs these days. Young couples who, wanted to have kids just don't see the possibility to afford having children today. For a lot of folks, by the way, things like vacations and movies, restaurants, those are things of the past. Just the other day, I met a veterinarian and her husband. Her business, she said, has dropped by 40% during the Obama economy. Not because she lost clients, but because the clients she has can no longer afford the vaccinations and the kind of care they used to give their pets. And this veterinarian and her husband said they've now lost their home, they lost their clinic, but they've not lost their determination. They have cut back deeper and deeper, and they work longer and harder. Americans are tired of living on the edge, tired about wondering about what kind of country they're going to leave their children. They're tired of being tired. This wasn't what we expected from President Obama. He promised change and hope, and he said we could do anything we wanted together. But rhetoric met reality, and reality won. His 4 years had been a disappointment for all of us, and they've been a catastrophe for a lot of us. You may recall in his campaign kickoff speech just last week, he asked us not to think about the last 4 years. That's convenient, but it's not convincing, all right? Ignoring his record would bind us to repeat it, and we're not going to let that happen. He's asking us, nevertheless, to look only to the years ahead, to consider how much better his policies will make things down the road. But in our hearts, we know. As much as we'd like to believe him, we know that America is going in the wrong direction. Not forward, but sideways, or worse. We know that the mounting debt is a problem, not a blessing. We know that failing schools mean failing futures. We know that if more and more good jobs leave America, there won't be enough good jobs in America to succeed in this great country. This we know in our hearts. The lessons of the last 4 years teach us a great deal about the next 4 years if we continue in the same direction with the same president. We must not. It's time to bring America back. Now, the president's plea that we simply ignore the last 4 years is actually his latest effort to escape responsibility for the failures of the last 4 years. His earlier attempt, as you recall, was to try and blame others. His predecessor, Congress, the 1%, oil companies, ATMs, the tsunami. But the failures were not caused by others. They were caused by wrong choices. The president's wrong choices. President Obama chose to apply liberal ideas of the past to a 21st century America. Liberal policies didn't work back then. They haven't worked during these last 4 years. And they will not work in the future. New Democrats had abandoned those policies. But President Obama resurrected them with the predictable results. President Clinton, remember, he said the era of big government was over. President Obama brought it back with a vengeance. Government at all levels now consumes about 38% of the economy. And if Obamacare is installed, that'll rise to about half of the economy. President Clinton made efforts to reform welfare as we know it. But President Obama is trying to tirelessly expand the welfare state with more promises and more programs, more benefits, more spending. Old school liberals saw a problem and thought a government-run program was the answer. Obamacare is the fulfillment of their dreams. Federal bureaucrats will tell all Americans what they have to have in their health insurance policies, and an unelected board will tell seniors what treatments Medicare is going to cover. Liberalism once taught that unions would ensure lasting prosperity for workers. Instead, they too often contributed to disappearing companies and disappearing industries and disappearing jobs. But like many politicians of the past, the president takes his marching orders from union bosses and rails against the right to work states and fights to win union elections by eliminating the right to vote by secret ballot, and even denies an American company the right to build a factory in the American state of its choice. The liberals of the past raised taxes, often with very little thought to how they'd hurt small business and the economy. Just like them, President Obama proposes to raise the tax on small business. He wants to increase the marginal tax rate that the most successful small businesses pay from 35% to 40%. It's a throwback to the discredited policies of the past, and it'll kill jobs. Old-school liberals envision government guiding and providing every need of every citizen. Government would be at the center, the most important player in our lives. Have you seen, by the way, the president's vision of the future? To help us see it, his campaign has even created a little fictional character. It's on the website, living an imaginary life filled with happy milestones for which she will spend the rest of her days thanking President Obama. It's called The Life of Julia, and it's a cartoon. Julia progresses from cradle to grave, showing how government makes every good thing in her life possible. The weak economy, high unemployment, falling wages, rising gas prices, the national debt, the insolvency of entitlements, all these are fictionally assumed away in a cartoon produced by a president who wants us to forget about them. By the way, what does it say about a president's policies when he has to use a cartoon character rather than real people to justify his record? And what does it say about the fiction of old liberalism to insist that good jobs and good schools and good wages will result from policies that have failed us time and again? It's often asked why this recovery has been so slow, the slowest on record. Why are American families having to suffer so much for so long? is because the solutions that have been applied to the problem have been the wrong solutions. President Obama is looking in the wrong direction. Looking backward won't solve the problems of today, nor will it take advantage of the opportunities of tomorrow. His are the policies of the past. The challenges of the present and the promise of tomorrow must be met by a new and bold vision for the future, and I will bring it. You know me pretty well, but let me remind you of a few things. I spent my business career at the leading edge of change and dynamism. For my first 10 years, I helped advise enterprises across the country as the economic world they participated in was changing. Some of the companies were able to adapt to that change, and some were not. Our task was always the same, which was to try and see the impact of change and to see the future in ways that other people hadn't seen it. That was also my task for the next 15 years of my business career, as I helped start new businesses or invested in businesses that were needing improvement. We saw, for instance, the immense opportunity for advertising on the internet very early on. We saw the opportunity for superstores and sporting goods and superstores for office supplies. We saw the opportunity for building a new steel mill in this country, even as old steel mills across the country were shutting down. Finding solutions and opportunities in an environment of change and turbulence is what I learned during my career. And it's something I want desperately to bring to the presidency. We can't look backward. We have to look for those opportunities in a changing world. This is a time for new answers, new ideas, and a new direction. It's really the only way that our future can be better than the past, and we can bequeath to our children a bright and promising life. Let me describe some of the policies of that new direction. And of course, I'm going to be discussing these in a lot more depth throughout the campaign. I'm going to improve health care by getting it to work more like a consumer market and less like a government-dominated utility, and I will repeal and replace Obamacare. I want individuals to be able to buy their own health insurance policies, either through their employer or directly, if that's how they choose it. And the kind of competition we see in everything around us, from auto insurance to cell phones to broadband, will finally slow the growth of health care costs. I'm going to improve schools and universities and colleges with greater choice, greater accountability, and greater application of the technologies that have transformed other parts of our economy. I'll help usher in a revival in American manufacturing. I'm convinced if we take an entirely new direction in energy and in trade policy and in labor policy, we're going to see more manufacturing jobs come back to America than those that have left America. I'm absolutely convinced of this. This is real. With the right policies and the right leadership, we can see a resurgence in American manufacturing. Now, new and small and emerging businesses and so-called gazelle or fast growth businesses will spring up across the country if we institute pro-growth regulations, pro-growth tax policies, pro-growth intellectual property protections, pro-growth labor policies. And we can rebuild our failing infrastructure by merging public investment with private initiative. And as this new direction creates new jobs, it'll also create the increasing demand for workers. And that produces higher wages and better benefits. With the right direction and the right leadership, America can be reinvigorated as an economic powerhouse. And families can depend once again on stable jobs and rising home values and more opportunities for their children. This can be more than our hope. It can be our future. Look, the economic pressures that families feel today are not inevitable. It doesn't have to be this way. We're not the victim of forces out of our control. We can choose our destiny. We are, after all, Americans. That's what Americans do. We chose this destiny. We can choose our next destiny as well. America's at a crossroads, one with the greatest economic divergence of the last 100 years. One path is that which the president has chosen. It ends with us becoming much more like Europe, with chronic high unemployment, stagnant wages, and perilous levels of debt. If we continue in the direction President Obama has chosen, companies will continue to migrate away from America to more job-friendly countries elsewhere. Small businesses and startups will dwindle. And of course, consumed by a desire to protect what little we have left, we'll ignore the kinds of opportunities that created this great nation in the first place. I propose an entirely different course, a new course, unlike anything of our past. It will draw on the creativity and invention of the world's most innovative citizenry. Government will be the partner, not the master. And government will be small enough for businesses to grow fast enough to exploit global opportunities, fast enough to create better jobs, fast enough to provide our children with a future that's brighter than even our past. The president is trying to breathe life into the failed policies of the past. We've got to instead invigorate the spirit of free people and free enterprises with a new vision for the future. I'm increasingly optimistic about our future. I know the challenges we face are serious and grave, but while I understand those challenges, I've also seen our strengths. In this campaign, I've seen the fundamental goodness of this nation and of our people. I've seen the creative capacity of our entrepreneurs, the productivity of our workers, the unrivaled power of freedom in our students. I've seen the leaders and innovators of tomorrow. They'll do great things if we give them the freedom to dream big and the resources to create and build upon those dreams. Innovation is the heart and soul of American prosperity. We work on iPads. We take pictures with cell phones. We sell on virtual marketplaces. We have best friends on Facebook we've never even met. All of these things were invented in America. And somewhere at a coffee shop, perhaps here in Lansing, a student is probably sketching out an idea right now that'll change our lives in ways we can't even imagine. I want that person to succeed beyond their wildest dreams. I want them to create thousands of jobs. And by the way, out of their innovation will come other innovations and more good jobs. That's how America works. You know, at a time when technology is empowering people with more choices and more control over their lives than at any time in history, this president's policies substitute government for individuality, for choice, for freedom. There's no app for freedom. It's what we live. Freedom gives us more choices, more prosperity, and better lives. We don't have to do with less. We can create more. This is America. I believe in America. I believe in the power of freedom. And we can create a better future. Our children are counting on us. The world depends on us. And God willing, we won't disappoint. God bless this great nation, the greatest in the history of the earth. Thank you so very much. Great to be with you today. Thank you.